Hello, I'm Melinda Hindenburger, and this is Woman Up, Politics Daily's online Sunday show, and your antidote to too many men on your TV screen on this Valentine's Day Sunday. Your elected representatives in Washington will be back home this next week while Congress is in recess, having accomplished what exactly? With huge majorities in both the House and Senate, let's review what the Democrats who run the joint, in theory anyway, have gotten done. Health care reform, the Democrats' top priority this last year, was stalled indefinitely. The estate tax has expired, as will the Patriot Act and the formula to pay doctors who treat Medicare patients if Congress doesn't act before the end of the month. A bipartisan agreement to pass a jobs bill, the issue President Obama called his #1 priority in his State of the Union address, fell apart at the end of this last week. So with so little happening, a recent poll showed 7 out of 10 of those surveyed believe that Democrats and Republicans should try a lot harder to work with each other. But is there anything the Democrats could do, or are Republicans determined to vote no on everything until the midterms or the sky falls, whichever comes first? Patricia Murphy, you cover Congress for us at Politics Daily. How bad is it? Is there anything that can be done?
I don't know what can be done at this point, but it is bad. It is colossally bad. It is, I think, bordering on historically bad. I've talked to Democrats, and that is bad. I mean, it is at a literal and figurative block of ice right now. Harry Reid, and it's gone from bad to worse for Harry Reid. He had the health care bill, which he was able to just barely cobble together enough votes on, just with Democrats. Now, obviously, he's lost one of those votes, and it is a critically difficult time for him to get anything done. And he is finding that he obviously can't get health care done. Now he can't get jobs done. He can't unite his caucus, and he's also not reaching across the aisle to Republicans. And until he does one of the two a whole lot better, nothing's going to happen.
But Republicans should want to at least have this jobs bill. I mean, that's what American people are really worried about right now. So, you know, there's got to be a way to at least make that happen. Jill, what do you think the Democrats should do at this point?
Well, I should just point out that the Republicans are also really worried about the deficit, and at one time supported a commission to try to figure out how to get rid of it, or at least to ease it, and they voted against that. So you know, there's really an obstructionist strain going on here. Now, there are some things Democrats can do, and President Obama actually did one of them. He threatened the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell about more than 60 nominations that have been held up, and suddenly 27 of them passed. But that's because Obama has the power to make an appointment during a recess without getting confirmation from senators. So, you know, that is one area that they have some power, and he used it. The other area that they could make progress in is health care. If the House passed the Senate bill, there would be health reform. If they both houses decided to alter it through a majority reconciliation bill, they'd have health reform. But, you know, I think what Patricia says is right. They have to decide on what they want, and they have to decide what fight they want to take to the Republicans, and they've just been shaking in their boots ever since Scott Brown was elected in Massachusetts.
Do you think that's been an overreaction? Do you think that they're Bonnier Bay? I mean, do you think that if they just stop panicking, they could choose one on the menu and go with it?
No, are you talking about the Democrats?
The Democrats,
well,
right.
The Democrats, I mean, you know, it's one thing to win an election, it's another thing to govern, and I don't see them using, just as they could, when Alito was up for the Supreme Court, everybody kept saying, well, we don't have enough votes to filibuster. We don't have enough votes to filibuster. That doesn't mean if you assert the rights that you have and the power that the Senate rules give you, you can't try a filibuster and have it voted out. That makes you look like you're pursuing your goals more. And I think a lot of it is the Democrats, you know, the Republicans are like the military or a big corporation. They all march to this, you know, the party leader message. And Democrats are, you know, the old Will Rogers thing. I don't belong to any organized party. I'm a Democrat. And so they're really not galvanizing. They're trying to cater to the 64 conservative Democrats in the House. They're not galvanizing the way the Republicans can.
At what point, Lynn Sweet, you covered the White House for us and have for a long time, at what point do the Republicans cross over and just begin to take blame for being obstructionist, for being, I was thinking back to '96 when they closed the government in January, closed the government down, and that was sort of the turning point when people said, you know, this is too far. It's okay to argue that we don't need government, but guess what? Some things need to get done. Is there a point like that coming now that you see where Republicans will overplay that hand?
Well, they will have learned from that. You're not going to have that overplay of a hand. I think what will happen is that in the most important rule, remember everyone, the rule number one of politics, no matter if you're a Democrat or Republican, is selfish self-interest. And I think that
That's easy to remember.
and that's rule one. And that's why I think now that President Obama has renewed a call for bipartisanship, and we'll define that in a minute because it's a very slippery definition here, both sides need a few little victories as we get closer to these elections, and the march is on already towards November. That means taking maybe some tax credits on the jobs bill. You know, the bill was broken into 4 parts, bite-sized, digestible pieces. The other thing that is the lesson that I think both sides have of the tantrum days of Newt Gingrich is that the public understands anger, but they don't understand nuance. And they have to be very careful not to overplay their hand. One quick point about Obama and his renewed call for bipartisanship. What does it mean? Does it mean bipartisan roll calls? The president wasn't able to get any major bill passed on that. Or does it mean you just incorporate Republican ideas? They tried that, and the public has not been convinced that that is bipartisanship because he did incorporate, so they said, ideas. One thing I just want to call to your attention, what I call phony bipartisanship, is Speaker Pelosi put out a press release Friday morning that a bipartisan bicameral delegation is going to Haiti. True, it's bicameral, meaning House and Senate, but she's calling bipartisan the fact that there's 1 Republican and about 9 or 10 Democrats.
Yeah,
But let me
that's not
can I jump in for a
bipartisanship.
second about jobs bill? Let's not forget that, I mean, you can blame the Obama administration for mishandling on, as opposed to this bill that you're talking about that has 4 little bites in it, you know, making the Hillary mistake and trying to do health care all at once, when 80% of Americans tell pollsters they're happy with their present situation. Secondly, there was a jobs bill.
I have to question how that question was posed, because I say only people who've never been sick or loved anybody who's been sick has got to love the health care.
But okay, fine. You can question the pollsters, but that's what the poll numbers show. But secondly, it's not like there hasn't been, you know, one of his biggest legislative victory was the stimulus package. $750 billion spent mainly on job stimulation. So you can't say that he hasn't had success on jobs.
No,
he's
that's
had huge
true.
success on jobs.
And I wonder if he's not getting some of the credit he deserves, because so many of the successes he has had have been sort of corrective. I mean, with the stimulus, with even things like the Fair Pay Act and reversing the ban on embryonic stem cell research.
Right.
So maybe it's just that with the shape the country's in, he has so far to go that he's really not getting credit. Patricia, what do you see happening realistically that even if we have some incremental legislative victories, what are they likely to be?
I actually really agree with Lynn. Both sides know that as the elections come forward, they're going to have to prove that they were able to do something. And that's true for Republicans really as much as it is for Democrats. So there will be a few small pieces where Mitch McConnell will make the judgment, yes, I'm ready to give up on obstructing this right now. But Harry Reid, I really think he needs to start doing, he has been building his bills from the left to satisfy the left, and then trying to pick off some moderates, trying to pick off Olympia Snowe or Susan Collins. He can't do that anymore because the Republicans are united against what he's doing. He needs to build from the center and risk losing some liberal support to get these moderates in the middle, and that's what the independent voters want to see, and the independent voters are the ones swinging these elections.
And that's a political impossibility with Reid up for re-election himself, not willing
He needs to score some victories, too, so he does not look like just a partisan leader.
I would just argue that this health bill is big because I think it needs to be. Once you start disassembling it, the parts start to collapse.
And that's the problem with reconciliation is you can only move things that relate to the budget, but there are other pieces that have to be done that aren't related.
You can pass the Senate bill by having the House pass it, and then you can just fix the money parts, which are the parts they disagree on.
Yeah, but I think the whole system is really too big I think you could do universal coverage, period, and it would lose, quite frankly. You could do fixing problems with insurance, like making sure there's affordable insurance.
Or you could wrap up the show when we have to and have a great Valentine's Day. Thanks for joining us.